Video 1. Are the Gospels historically reliable? 4 ancient biographies written by 4 different authors about the same man, and skeptics and historians have been arguing about how much we can trust them for 2,000 years. So, what does the actual evidence say? If you've ever had a friend say something like, "The Bible was written so long after Jesus that nobody really knows what happened," you've run into this question already, and it's a fair one to ask. We should want our beliefs to survive scrutiny, not avoid it. So today we're not going to assume the Gospels are reliable. We're going to look at why historians, including many who aren't Christians, take them seriously as historical sources. The first thing skeptics often assume is that the Gospels were written centuries after Jesus, like legends that grew in the retelling. But that's not what the evidence shows. Most historians, across the believing and skeptical spectrum, date the Gospels to within about 30 to 60 years of Jesus' life. Paul's letters, which mention the resurrection as already established belief, are even earlier, within just a few years of the events themselves. Compare that to other ancient biographies we treat as reliable historical sources. The standard biographies of Alexander the Great were written 300 to 400 years after he died. By ancient standards, a 30 to 60-year gap is remarkably close. The second concern people raise is whether the text has been corrupted over centuries of copying. Here's where the evidence is actually stronger than most people expect. We have thousands of ancient Greek manuscripts of the New Testament, far more than for any other ancient document, including fragments dated within a generation or two of the originals. That doesn't mean every single manuscript agrees on every word. They don't, and honest scholars say so. Most differences are spelling, word order, or obvious copying slips that don't change the meaning of a single sentence. The handful of differences that do matter are openly footnoted in modern Bible translations. Nothing is hidden. Beyond dating and manuscripts, historians point to specific features inside the Gospels themselves. They include inconvenient details, like women being the first witnesses to the resurrection, which carried little legal weight in that culture and isn't the detail you'd invent if you were fabricating a convincing legend. They include unflattering portrayals of the disciples, including the lead apostle Peter, which isn't typical of propaganda. And they include precise, checkable details about geography, customs, and politics in first-century Judea that archaeology has repeatedly confirmed. None of this proves every theological claim in the Gospels. Historical reliability and divine inspiration are two different questions, and we're only answering the first one today. But as historical documents, the Gospels meet, and in some ways exceed, the standards historians apply to other ancient sources. The strongest version of the skeptical objection isn't "they're too late" or "we have no manuscripts." Serious skeptics know the dating and manuscript evidence. The stronger objection is eyewitness memory is unreliable, and 4 accounts with real differences in detail and order suggest exactly the kind of independent, imperfect testimony you'd expect from separate witnesses, which is actually a sign of authenticity, not collusion, the same way detectives get suspicious when stories match too perfectly. That's a fair point, and it cuts both ways. Minor variation in detail is what real, independent testimony looks like. Wholesale invention from nothing is a much harder case to make once you account for the dating, the inconvenient details, and the corroborated specifics. So where does that leave you? If you're a skeptic, the historical case at minimum means the Gospels deserve to be read as serious ancient testimony, not dismissed as legend. If you're a believer, it means your faith isn't resting on wishful thinking. It's resting on documents that hold up under the same scrutiny historians apply everywhere else. If you want to actually read one of these accounts for yourself and see what the fuss is about, next week we start walking through the Gospel of John verse by verse, starting at the very beginning. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you've got a friend who's asked this exact question, this is the video to send them.